Well, welcome to the Top Gun Show. Today we have Ben Blackburn. He's the VP of Business Transformation for the JS Group with Janet Shins. He served as Director of Global Channels for Motorola Solutions and was the Director of Motorola's Digital Six Sigma Process Improvement Initiatives. Prior to Motorola, he served as a Distributor Sales Manager for Medtronic. Ben is also an expert in continuous improvement, business transformation, go-to-market planning, cross-functional teams, and of course, Six Sigma consulting. Ben, welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Steve. I've enjoyed your series and enjoyed the clips that I've seen.
Right on, right on. Well, your background's extremely broad. I'd like to focus this interview on strengthening and educating the indirect sales channel. You're a former CPA and Six Sigma Black Belt, so you fully understand measuring ROI. Why are companies moving to a more hybrid revenue model by building recurring revenue streams in the channel?
Yeah. Well, one of the things we've seen over time is that the traditional model of hardware, software sales, more transactional, has really given way to more complex solutions. And to sell that, it's just definitely taken a different level, new skill sets and such as well. And certainly the need for partners has evolved on this front as well. So what we've seen is the companies are going to more of these hybrid recurring models. Number one, because the solutions require longer term sales in as well as recurrence. And then there's also the stickiness factor where vendors want to have partners that are going to be with them longer term to sell. So beyond the normal short-term cycle of transactions, you have recurring models that are longer term and require more loyalty and stickiness for partners with vendors themselves.
Yeah, that's great. That's a definite value there. I've read a lot of your work, Ben, and one of the things you said impressed me. You said, don't look at the traditional way of doing business, but work backwards. Start with the customer. Why don't you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, it's always been a requirement in transactions to understand customer requirements. Growing up in the Six Sigma world, everything's driven by voice of the customer, right? But what we've seen over time is that the evolution of the customer cycle is so different now. Many companies are so maniacally focused on this thing called the customer journey and the whole user experience. So what we're seeing now is that understanding customer requirements in a much shorter cycle is imperative. So that's why understanding the customer first, because there are three really big attributes that the enterprises need to focus on. Number one is access. Customers have much broader access, different avenues to acquire products and services than they had in the past. Speed. Used to be you'd get 3 to 6 months in a life cycle building a product, you'd be able to test it and go to market with that. But that's definitely changed now. It's much faster. Consumers now, especially the demographics we're seeing now in younger populations coming up, they're demanding it quicker in a much quicker cycle. And the third one's behaviors. A lot of enterprises now invest heavily in understanding the psychographics as well as buyer personas of various segments, users, and geo areas. So understanding these behaviors are critical. So you start with the customer, really. You've got to maniacally focus on, number one, how they access and how they buy. Number two, their expectation in terms of speed. Then understand their behaviors. That's very critical as well.
Great answer. Very thorough, man. This is why you guys at the JS Group are killing it with vendors. You guys are really doing a good job. Mm-hmm. Now, the last question. Most carriers and service providers, aka vendors, acquire customers through direct and indirect sales teams. Yet, those teams often compete against each other. How do you avoid channel conflict?
Yeah. Well, you're never going to eliminate channel conflict. You can only try to control it or mitigate it. And in fact, channel conflict to some degree is a sign of health, right? You've got a demand for your product and services. So it's always going to be something problematic, but also something you can't ever resolve entirely. What companies do is usually they have rules of engagement under direct and indirect channels. They'll say this is how we're going to operate, set these boundaries, governance rules. But it also comes down to controlling within a channel. There's methods and tools that are generally used to ensure that you don't have that conflict or poaching of opportunities, things like deal registration and other kinds of engagement rules. But really where companies can really control that channel conflict the best is making sure they've got parity between the direct and indirect on the compensation level. that means tying in, making sure that the value is there between the indirect and the direct. Because remember, indirect channels also have a choice with among other vendors, so you want to make sure you treat them well because they are really an important extension of your brand as well. So being able to manage that and understand, get in, really have the partners, the indirect channel, as an extension of your brand, is truly understand and treat them the same level of fairness and parity that you would your direct channel. That's an important behavior to make sure that is captured when you build out these governance models for rules of engagement.
Great stuff. Great stuff. I love it. I love it. Well, Ben, I know you're a big fan of the Top Gun show, and you know there are millions and millions of people watching this right now. So why don't you tell the viewers a little known fact about yourself? How about, what are you passionate about?
Yeah. Well, anybody that knows me knows I'm really passionate about ministry, and I've recently embarked on a men's ministry within our community up here in New England. And traditionally, men generally are nomads when it comes to their social life. Most men have fewer than 5 friends. So in our church, and what we've done is a friend that I have in another church, we built this network called Wings and a Prayer. And all we do is we're like creating social events and doing things where guys can get together and share openly and not have any pressure whatsoever. We call it bringing guys out of the caves. So it's really a ministry that we've started about a year ago. We're up to 30 or 40 men strong right now. We're growing rapidly, and we're really becoming a network for men to connect and really get out and socialize. And especially in a time like COVID, it's been an important life raft for a lot of guys as well. So it's wingsandaprayer.org. That's our ministry, and that's something that I've always been really passionate about ministry. And this is the stage of my life is what I'm focused on right now.
Well, it sounds fun. I mean, I know men need to get out of their cave, and what better reason to do it than to have a wing or two?
You got that.
That's great, man. That's great. Well, hey, Ben, thanks so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
And thanks for watching, everybody.